I'm so pleased to have the opportunity this afternoon to sit with Catherine Campbell from Assurance Financial. Assurance Financial is a independent full-service residential mortgage banker servicing the loans from beginning to end. Catherine, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, let's just dive right in because I definitely appreciate your time, and I've been chomping at the bit to get into your brain. So
Let's do it.
let's do it. Let's talk a little bit about your role as the chief digital officer. I mean, the role itself is already intriguing, but it just sounds like you're overseeing all of these different integrations to ensure that clients receive clear messaging through the journey. So you guys are doing this whole journey process for the client to get a mortgage. What are some of the ways that you guys are doing that over at Assurance?
Absolutely. Great question. It's a role that did not even exist really a couple of years ago, if you think about it. And it's kind of being redefined in the technology space for mortgage, and then mortgage trying to figure out what exactly role that plays, because it's not just technology. So I run technology and marketing and IT and the consumer direct division. It's not just the technology itself, but making sure that the technologies align to create a really consistent experience for both the loan officer and the consumer, right? And in doing that, what happens is when you're going from one technology to another, the compliance consequence of that can be very high. So it's important that if you bring somebody in, that it's not just a matter of, oh, what's a great marketing message, because we all know marketing and compliance can kind of go in different directions from time to time. It's making sure that there's a consistency where there's not a lag in the understanding of where someone has opted into a certain opportunity, and particularly marketing conversation. So it's, we have about 26 technologies that we've adopted in just the last 2.5 years, and making sure that they make sense and that they relate to each other. And, once again, that there is a very clear compliant consequence to them is just as part of my job as anything else.
Wow, that's really interesting. So you were instrumental in the creation of the centralized retail division, and I cannot recall, you can tell us a little bit more about that, but allowing that loan advisor to focus solely on the mortgage applications generated online, and doing this online advertising piece. How do you ensure that the advertising and the messaging that the customers and or your consumers are getting is accurate and always compliant, especially with 26 different technologies? How do you guys maintain that compliance?
Very good question. So ironically, to make sure the technology is compliant, we use technology. So there are actually monitoring tools out there that are very, very sophisticated now, obviously Performline being one of them. And it's just amazing how, what we call spider sites or scraping data across the web has gotten just sophisticated in its ability to find words, NMLS numbers, rates that could be out there across not only, bringing clients into a very planned experience that I can talk about here in a minute, but what about all of those unplanned experiences? What about all the times you have 100, 1,000, however many loan officers your company may have that is out there communicating with the world, and regardless of what they may be saying, the consequence is us, right? The consequence for us is Assurance Financial. So taking that very seriously. So one is definitely training. It's important that we have regular compliance training, that we, assume some responsibility for the knowledge that our entire employee base has. But the other is employing the technology accurately and across the different tools. Integration between these modern tools today is relatively simple. Integrating some of those modern tools into the legacy tools, right? Some of the LOSs out there that are quite dated is not always an easy thing to do. So what we want to make sure is that in the very back end, where the underwriting is taking place, where some of the marketing communications have been automated out, where that is a very planned experience that's been around for potentially 10 years, let's say, that some of the tools we've just adopted in the last year that are integrating with those are jiving, right? So if we say, something that we said 5 years ago, is that not only not compliant, is it even true? Because in the market that we're in today, the conversation is changing very quickly with the needs of the economy. And, those words are the types of tools that these compliant tools have. You've just input what it is you want to be looking for. And, you know, when you have a good partner like Performline, they're doing a lot of that work for you. So good training and good tools is the key.
Great. So we're a couple of months into this new administration, and we know that a lot of the enforcement and the oversight is going to be focusing on racial equity, fair lending, a lot of emphasis on all things that are happening around complaints. How within your technologies do you navigate yourself and manage to that? And also my back end question, and let me know if we need to go back to it, but how do you comply and ensure that with all of the different demands from this at the state level, that you're really, you know, going through that process of keeping up with the federal and keeping up with the state, and yet making sure you're adhering to all of those things within that fair lending space and managing around complaints?
That's right. Well, that's where you definitely want a good partner in this, because if you look at what California did, Illinois followed suit, New York has followed suit. We know ultimately we need to get to these stricter guidelines and make sure people are really clear that they're opting into something, and whether or not we hold their data. I mean, that is just something that we have got to get to. So if you look at the very front end, using tools like Google Analytics, placing your campaigns, if you're actually you know, pushing out campaigns, go all the way back to the early days of redlining and issues that, you know, what is the intention behind the campaigns that you're running? And if you have designed, and it must be by design, a very fair campaign, then it should be distributed that way, and that is trackable. So what you just want to make sure is that as these states, you know, change their regulations, that you've got, you know, good attorneys, good partners within the tools themselves, the way that advertising comes back to you know, that there is a privacy policy, that there are, you know, that there's a legal page on your site that is clearly defining these things. These cannot be difficult to find. A consumer should never wonder, well, I guess it's, you know, this is right. They should easily be able to navigate your site and find information that they would be looking for in that regard.
That's great information. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information. I think our time is just about up here. And I wanted to just say thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. I'm sure that the group out there is probably excited and looking forward to taking some of that advice and putting it into practice. And thank you so much to you and to Assurance Financial for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great job you guys are doing to help us all out. Thank you.
Thanks.